Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We are now well into January and things are starting to hot up on the transfer front. Lots of talk about who's leaving, a lot of rumours about who's coming in, and some strange talk about Ineos being big fans of Graham Potter, which is slightly worrying if I think about it. But listen, there's a long road ahead, and there's going to be lots of twists and turns and lots of rumours. So listen, no more waffle for me. Without further ado, let's take a look at the headlines. Coming up on today's episode, Jaden Sancho deal looking close as United reach verbal agreement with Borussia Dortmund over 6-month loan. Lots of transfer targets this January, with Michel Olise of Crystal Palace being a key Ineos target for the summer. Erik ten Hag keen to keep Andre Onana for as long as possible, with keeper being forced to play games back-to-back nights. And has Facundo Pellistri reached the end of the road with his United career, with the player being linked with a move to Nice? All that coming up. So yeah, let's get into it. And yeah, a lot of momentum behind the story now that Mr. Jaden Sancho is going to be going back to Borussia Dortmund, to the Bundesliga. And this seems to be a deal that makes sense for all parties involved. He goes back to a team that knows and appreciates him, knows how to use him, understands the player very well. He understands the league, their tactics. Even though he's been gone for a few years, Dortmund do have a particular way of playing, which is what most clubs should. That's why you have directors of football. So you have a discernible style that you try and keep to. So yeah, I mean, this just does make sense for everyone. So what this will allow United to do is obviously get rid of Sancho as a disruptive influence out of the club and give Erik ten Hag a little bit of peace. Also, what it shows is Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are clearly backing the manager. Now, it looks like it's backing, because if Ten Hag gets fired, then they bring Sancho back from Dortmund, and maybe he can thrive or flourish under a new manager after he's been kind of taught another lesson in his disciplinary career. However, if they keep Ten Hag, obviously this looks like a very strong show of support from Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, that they are backing him. They will do what he wants them to do and remove players that he doesn't want there. I mean, even the fact that Maguire and McTominay are still at that club and they were blatantly put up for sale, just shows a lack of cohesion between what the manager wants and what the club want, or even what the club are capable of doing. So this quite quickly shows that now that Ineos are through the door, only a wet week, they're quite capable of getting done what he needs done. And then Sancho can obviously put himself in the shop window, increase his value, and as such, if he does do really well, it just increases his value. And then United are going to get, more money in the summer. Pretty standard. Now, I don't understand how the fact that this has happened, people are saying it's been irresponsible of Ten Hag to do this. If you have more than one club going for the player and you've got a bidding war, what's going on behind the scenes between him and the manager doesn't really matter. If you're a club and you want a player, unless you're the only ones going in for them, you don't really have much leverage. If there's another club going in for them, you just play one off the other. So all you need is two clubs, and all that behind the scenes bullshit goes out the window. Either you want the player, you think he's going to do well for you, or you don't think he's going to do well for you. So who wants him? So United star Jaden Sancho understood to have reached a verbal agreement, and report covered by the People's Person explained that United have been locked in talks at Dortmund regarding Sancho's immediate future. So clearly this has been going on for a few weeks. United keen to part ways with the player. Sky Germany reporter Florian Plettenberg, pretty good source on all these things, who also confirms the existence of a verbal agreement between Sancho and Dortmund. Jaden Sancho, whether there will be an option to buy, is not yet confirmed. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Jaden Sancho wants to continue his career in Germany. Just a way to put himself in the shop window to get himself to a bigger club. He doesn't want to just fall down the Premier League table into a club that's going to take a punt on him. He needs to put himself in the shop window, not only for his own career and his own ego, but United need top level clubs who can afford his wages, which won't impact his ultimate transfer value. So currently, further details of the loan are still being negotiated. All parties aim to finalize the deal quickly, allowing Sancho to travel to Dortmund's training camp in Marbella. So yeah, there's Sancho, obviously lifting the cup back in the day. And then, of course, we have articles from Sky Sports. And yeah, they're just kind of going into a little bit, Darmesh Sheth kind of echoing what I've already just said. So what will be in discussion right now will be a loan fee and the salary situation because he's on big wages. Can they afford to pay his wages? They can. Dortmund are a selling club. They're cash rich. No, they're not in a very, capital intensive league in terms of the amount of money it generates, but Borussia Dortmund have a lot of money. They buy well, they sell high, and they've certainly extracted huge amounts of revenue from Manchester, both red and blue, for their players, even if Haaland was slightly undervalued when he went. Dortmund have the money. It's just, whether or not they want to spend. They certainly can. So will they hope that United can help them out and pay a portion of those wages? I've heard some rumors it's 50%. I've heard other rumors it's 30%. I mean, I think with a small loan fee, which wouldn't be, through the roof, and maybe covering 50% of his 200 grand a week wages, or 200, or 250 grand, whatever they are. You get different amounts depending on the report. This could be a move that could work for everyone, though. Erik ten Hag obviously has fallen out with the player. Jaden Sancho not getting a sniff of first team action. If he goes to Dortmund, he plays well, his market value goes up. Blah de blah de blah. So this is just going to be good for all parties involved. So good luck to Jaden Sancho. I hope for Man United's sake he does very well, because I want us to get as much money as we can. I don't think he is as good as he thinks he is. I don't think he will ever be able to even closely replicate the form he had in Dortmund in a tier 1 league like Spain or the Premiership. He's undoubtedly a good player, but there's just a smell of the Jesse Lingards, Ravel Morrisons, Paul Pogba, Anthony Martial's about Jaden Sancho, and he's just yet another player that United have brought in, young, talented, egotistical, which you need, that gets a grossly inflated wage based on what they've done within the game, barring maybe Pogba, given World Cup and Serie A winner. But United are too often giving exorbitant amounts in fees, or sorry, in wages to players, and as a result, they just kind of put their feet up and go, "Well, I've made it." They don't have anything to play for. They're not natural born winners. These are guys that want to get to a certain level. That's what drives them. Once they hit that level, they just put the feet up. We see it with golfers once they win a major. You've seen it with the likes of McGregor. Other people within sports, once they hit a certain ceiling, they just put the feet up, the money rolls in, and they don't really care about legacy or trophies or winning. They might say they do, but deep down in their DNA, it's just not in them to be like that. So, see you later, Jaden. Thanks for the memories. Probably not. Okay, so we go to the Mirror now, a bastion of journalistic excellence, and they're saying that now that Ineos is at the club and now taking control of footballing matters within United, that there's a bunch of players that are being linked. And but Neville having said that it's previously a graveyard for players. So one of the main players now that's being linked is Michel Olise. There's huge reports going on that Michel Olise is now high up on the list of players that Ineos want to bring into the club. Now, remember, while Erik ten Hag is, of course, still going to have some say in the types of players that come in, I think the lists, and this is what I've known kind of happens in other clubs, lists are put together by the directors, and then the manager gets, who would you like from this list? But it's not a case of the manager picks the players and then the directors go, okay, well then who do we want from here? It's quite the opposite. So Olise, of course, signed a contract last year. We're very close to joining Chelsea. He did have a release clause of £35 million, which Chelsea were keen to activate. And, he ended up staying at Palace, renewing his contract, obviously getting an increase in his salary. Just as well he didn't go to Chelsea, because that's ended up like being a bit of a graveyard for players as well now. And obviously his buyout clause it has been doubled. So it's nearly 60 million now. So if you want to get Olise, with no questions asked, it's going to cost you 60 million. Now, he's 22 years of age. He scored 4 in his last 4 games. He scored 5 in his last 7 since coming back from injury. 22. A lot of noise about this guy. I really like him. I like Etse as well. I really like Eberechi Etse. He to me, he's the kind of the player of Palace that I would have my eye on, but we've got enough talent on the left-hand side. And, I think Olise would bring the kind of profile that we need at the club. But again, is it just Wilfred Zaha part 2? Is this just another overhyped English guy who's going to come in, another Jaden Sancho? And he hasn't even gotten close to the numbers Sancho was getting in Germany, despite my views on the German league being a tier 2 league. So yeah, Olise being very heavily linked with United, but it looks like if anything would happen, it would happen in the summer. I can think of better ways of spending 60 million quid than getting Michel Olise. If you're talking 35, 40 million, cool, but 60 million, it could just be, another one of those transfers where the guy comes in and just doesn't do a whole lot. Of course, Jean-Claire Todibo is on the list. This guy just does not seem to be going away. This is a player that's currently at Nice playing with Sir Jim Ratcliffe's team. It looks very likely United are going to get Todibo in, and I hope that happens. And then Timo Werner. I don't know how people feel about this. I mean, it's one of those where your voice goes high pitched when you discuss it. Oh well, maybe it'll work out. You're trying to convince yourself that this could be an idea. Well, I mean, he got into lots of scoring positions in Chelsea. He finds the right plays. I mean, if he could just get his scoring boots on, Timo Werner is a second-rate player. He looks good in Germany like so many other players do. He came to the Premier League and he did the square root of fuck all, and he'll do that again if he comes back to United. He's not a bad footballer, but he's found his level in Germany. He's not banging them at the moment. He's got some injury issues as well. He's had a bite of the cherry in the league, and no doubt he has some ability. He's just not at the level United need. This is another Anthony Martial, Jesse Lingard, Anthony Pellistri, Rashford even. Mind you, this guy's never done what Rashford did in the league. So I would be devastated if we signed Timo Werner. It would be an appalling show of, well, everything, footballing, nous, intent, everything. I would hate to see this transfer go through. So I hope to God it doesn't. And Joshua Kimmich, this is a very interesting one. With Bayern having priors for having no problem letting players go if they show any desire to leave. We've seen that before with players, and it says it would be a statement signing, and it would. He's 28. He's with Bayern Munich. He's one of the kind of core players there, but he's got 18 months left on his deal, and Tommy Tuchel doesn't really know what to do with him at the moment, doesn't know where his best position is, which is odd. He's been there a long time and won everything with Bayern. It's quite clear where his position is. But, we've seen Thiago, who was in his prime at Bayern, even though he had a couple of injuries, go to Liverpool and, worked out pretty well for everyone on that deal too. So he'd bring with him a bucket-load of winning experience like they did with Thiago, have shown they will sell players that they don't want to be there. Kimmich's game understanding is top-notch, etc., etc. I don't need to tell everyone just how good Joshua Kimmich is. It'd be a fantastic signing if United got a player of that caliber. So I certainly hope that happens. And of course, Michel Olise, is that where I'd be putting 60 million quid? I'd want to see a lot more from Michel Olise before. United need to stop spending outrageous amounts of money on unproven talent, which is what we've done with Anthony. It's what we've done with Højlund. And, would you say Mount was proven? I mean, 60 million quid for Mount was way too much. No one can say that he was worth 60 million quid, regardless of how much was left in his contract. The guy, he's not that prolific. I wouldn't put him in the Luka Modric bracket, where Modric doesn't get a lot of goals and assists himself, but he's a metronome. He's in the midfield. He connects everything. Is Mount connecting everything? No, he played on the left attacking area for Chelsea. He's played as a number 10, and he's had good seasons, but 60 million quid was a lot of money for a guy who, doesn't even have the fitness to be playing at the moment. But I hope to God he does work out. And a lot of fans, we can see here on United District, a lot of fans want Olise to come in, activate it. This is the buyout clause. Absolute no-brainer for me. People are saying that's it. Take 65 and keep the change. Bring! Exclamation marks. So yeah, he's 5 goals and 1 assist in 9 appearances for Crystal Palace this season. Pretty good record. And yeah, let's see. It could be a transfer that works out. But for 60 million quid, that is a risk, because if it doesn't work out, he's immediately only worth 25, 30, which happens to so many players that go to United. So we need to be a little bit more shrewd in what we pay for players these days. So Andre Onana, it seems Erik ten Hag is very reticent to get Mr. Bayindir in between the sticks too soon. He wants to milk absolutely every potential minute out of Andre Onana before he lets him go, which is odd. But again, we pay his wages, and if he's going to be a little bit jet lagged and tired getting off the plane, going to the AFCON, well, that's Cameroon's problem, really, isn't it? So Andre Onana to join up with Cameroon for the AFCON after United's game against Tottenham. So Erik ten Hag definitely wanting to utilize Andre Onana for that Spurs game. And you can see here, he'll travel to the Africa Cup of Nations straight after their meeting with Spurs on January 4th, where he is due to be playing Guinea on the 15th. And yeah, the international will now be able to play in United's FA Cup third round tie against Wigan on Monday before they welcome Spurs to Old Trafford 6 days later. Now, I saw this on social media, and I kind of agree. I wouldn't have minded seeing Bayindir kind of being blooded in. Apparently, the reports are Bayindir is doing very well in training at United. The players think he looks good. He's shown a lot of ability, and you brought him in. So I think a cup tie against Wigan could be a really good way of blooding him in, get that game against Spurs. But, you've got your number one keeper. If he's available, you play him. So I get both sides of the argument. So yeah, United signed Onana from Inter Milan, blah, blah, blah. So it's like he's going to be gone for about probably, it looks like, anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks if they go far in the competition. Is he going to be a big loss? We'll see. We haven't exactly been keeping out the goals. And while he has played well in some games, he's been pretty poor in others. But overall, I hope Onana works out. I think he can once he's got the right defenders in front of him. I think there's a very symbiotic relationship between defenders and goalkeepers, and both can make each other look very bad if they're not doing their jobs correctly, and can make a bad performance a very terrible performance. But as soon as one or the other side starts to kind of pick things up, it can make a huge difference. So we'll see, but very best of luck to Onana when he gets to the AFCON. But we've got him for a couple of games yet, so let's see how things fare against Wigan and Spurs. And finally, Facundo Pellistri. The guy's not really getting a look in. I mean, in an age when we've got, Anthony not got his shooting boots on, Sancho out the door, Greenwood not getting a look in. I mean, if ever there was a set of circumstances for this kid to come in and lay down a marker and trying to make this position his own, this is it. And he's still not getting a look in. He's just not able to get in this team. And listen, I trust Ten Hag. People are giving out about Jimmy Garner. Look what he's doing at Everton. We should never have sold him. Then who should we have sold? Mainu. We needed to sell someone. We needed revenue, and Jimmy Garner was not better than Mainu, and he wasn't going to be better than who we have there now. What are you going to say? He's better than Casemiro or Ericsson. It's just not going to happen. Would I have sold McTominay and kept Jimmy Garner? Yeah, but I think Jimmy Garner wanted to play first team football, and you can't guarantee a kid of his age first team football in the midfield. But Mainu seems to have been the guy that Ten Hag wanted to keep over any midfielder. And I think a lot of United fans would agree. If it's a choice between Mainu and Garner, you go with Mainu. So yeah, Pellistri not really being able to get a look in. And you can see Ten Hag here looking at two of the boys for the right-hand side that just don't seem to be cutting it at the moment. So he could reportedly be going to Nice. So makes sense. If you've got a player you wanted to develop, it makes sense that Sir Jim Ratcliffe would want to send him over to Nice, get him into the French league. It's a tier 3 league. It just is. And if he can cut it there, then you've got a player on your hands that you can maybe make a profit on, or maybe reintroduce into the team if he shows a good acceleration in his development and his skill set. And if you can't do it there, well, he's not going to be able to do it anywhere, really. So it goes on to say he's already brought on board Sir Dave Brailsford, who's tasked with overhauling the football structure and the culture of the club, whatever that means, they say. Brailsford is all about small gains, and he's about maximizing top-end performance for players and making sure there's a culture developed within the club to ensure that players are consistently getting the best out of themselves. Now, you might say that all sounds a bit obvious. Yeah, the end goal is always obvious. Get your players playing better. Yeah, clearly, but it's how you do that. And Brailsford has his own kind of approach to this. So yeah, this is depressing reading. It was recently revealed that their four-man striker shortlist includes Maxim Choupo-Moting, who is a 34-year-old at Bayern who just no. Thomas Muller, fuck off. Really. I mean, unless I see Marty McFly jumping out of a DeLorean with Thomas Muller from 2016, I'm not interested in that transfer. Timo Werner, God no. It's seriously like Muller and Werner. I mean, all we need is Schneider and throw in Sergio Ramos and maybe Fabio Quantrao, and we're living in a transfer window from 7 years ago. I mean, come on, boys. And Serhou Guirassy, I'd be all up for Serhou Guirassy coming in for 6 months and seeing how he does. He's always had a reasonable return in a struggling team. He's always kind of got about a 1 and 2, 1 and 3 return. He's hot as shit right now. And, we need a player. He's cheap. We need a player to come in between now and the end of the season to start firing in some goals and to help Hoyland. 18 million quid, or even get him on a loan. I would be all up for it. I think it would make a hell of a lot more sense to me. I'd prefer Guirassy over Werner or Muller or Choupo-Moting. And we've all heard of these players ahead of Guirassy until, a month ago. And I'd have that guy for sure. So Pellistri may move for Nice. He's only played 165 minutes in the league this season, so he's clearly not favoured by Ten Hag, and there's definitely going to be room for him to make a move. And David Ornstein reports the Uruguayan could make a loan move to Nice. It said the French outfit are one of a number of teams interested in moving for the attacker in the January window. So Nice connections mean move is likely. So just like it is for Jean-Claire Todibo, it looks like our boy Facundo is going to be going. And while it was reported he was not willing to stand in the way of Jean-Claire Todibo moving to Tottenham instead of United, it's unlikely that will happen all too often if the Red Devils can afford a Nice star. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Let's see what happens. But if Jaden Sancho was leaving, Anthony's not playing well, and Pellistri is gone, who plays out in the right? Is he expecting Mount to come back and then Mount takes over that right-hand side? Or is he going to make a move for someone to come in January? Because you can't let Sancho and Pellistri go, have Anthony in the form that he's in, and just leave it at that. Maybe Mount is going to be coming in on that right-hand side. Maybe Garnacho is going to be staying on that right-hand side with Anthony in support. Mount is going to be supporting maybe Bruno. Who knows? But you're letting two players go and not bringing anyone else in. It's a risk. But that's it for the news today. So what do you think of the headlines today? Please, thoughts in the comment section. I try and reply to everyone that comes in. So I'd be really interested to know what you, the viewer, thinks of this. Are you happy to see the back of Jaden? If he starts banging them in, would you want to see him reintegrated back into the team? Do you want to see Bayindir getting a run out against Wigan and getting himself warmed up? Because he's going to have to start against someone sometime. So are we better off just giving him an easier game to start gaining some momentum for the Premier League, or throw him straight into the deep end once we've kind of milked every minute we can out of Onana? And what about Facundo Pellistri? Are you sad to see the back of him? Do you think he should have been given a few more minutes? Yeah, I'm kind of torn on that one. I want to see the kid play football, but anytime he has been given a chance, it's hard when you're young and you're kind of in and out of the team and you're not being given a consistent run. And we've seen that, with some time, Garnacho, turned in bad games consistently in a row, and started to find a bit of form once he was given some time. And that same level of consistency hasn't been kind of afforded to Facundo, even in light of so many players missing on that right hand side or not being in form. So it's sad to see, but again, hopefully he can do well at Nice, either for a nice fat chunky transfer fee or we can bring him back in. And finally, Michel Olise, what do people think? Please, I want to hear from you guys, thoughts in the comments. Would you spend 60 million on Michel Olise? Is he worth it? I ran a poll on Twitter, so check it out, InsideManUtdPod on Twitter. And I ran a poll on would people go for the 60 million, or would they think it's mental and it's a bit too much? I think 63% are in favour of going for him, and the rest going no, that's mental. It's too much. So it's a close one. A few votes could swing that. So I'm kind of curious to know what people think. So jump on Twitter, subscribe, and get in on the voting and let me know what you think. So as always, guys, thank you very, very much for joining me, and I will see you on the next one.